My child, welcome to a journey into the hidden corners of the heart. Today, we are exploring a topic that is as beautiful as it is terrifying, those 10 signs that you and another person are already deeply in love, yet both of you are paralyzed by the fear of admitting it. This isn't your typical romance where everything is clear and easy. This is about those connections that defy logic, the ones that exist in the quiet spaces, the heavy silences, and the glances that linger just a second too long. If you have ever felt like you are standing on the edge of a cliff, wanting to jump into someone's arms but fearing the fall, then this is for you. We often think of love as a loud, celebratory thing, but sometimes the most profound love is the one that is currently hiding behind a mask of friendship or just chemistry. We are going to peel back those layers today and look at the truth of what happens when two souls recognize each other before their minds are ready to accept it. There is a specific kind of energy that exists between two people who are meant to be together but are both too scared to take the first step. It is a magnetic pull that you feel in the very center of your chest. You might be in a crowded room, surrounded by noise and laughter, yet your entire being is tuned into their frequency. You know exactly where they are standing, who they are talking to, and how their voice sounds above the rest. When your eyes eventually meet, it's like the rest of the world just fades into a blur. In that moment, something electric passes between you, something so quiet and yet so undeniable that it leaves you breathless. But instead of leaning into it, your first instinct is to look away and tell yourself it's just your imagination. You try to rationalize it. You tell yourself it's just physical attraction, or that you're just having a lonely day. You find reasons to reach out to them, maybe a quick text or a casual question, and then you immediately find reasons to pull back, just to see if that intense feeling will finally go away. But it never does. It stays there, simmering beneath the surface, because this isn't just a surface-level crush. It is a spiritual recognition. Your soul sees something in them that it remembers, and that level of familiarity is what scares you the most. It feels too real and too heavy to be happening so soon, so you keep pretending it's nothing, hoping the fire will die out if you stop feeding it, even though you know deep down that the fire is already burning bright. This leads into a very specific kind of avoidance that happens when the two of you are actually together. You might notice that while you can talk about the weather, your jobs, or the latest news for hours, there is a hard wall you hit whenever the conversation starts to get too personal. You are both masters of the surface level. You keep things light with jokes, a bit of playful teasing, or even sarcasm, because those are safe zones. In those moments of humor, you can feel the connection, but you don't have to acknowledge the weight of it. However, notice what happens when the laughter dies down and a moment of genuine vulnerability starts to creep in. Maybe the topic drifts toward what you're looking for in life, or how lonely you've been feeling lately, or how much you appreciate their presence in your world. Suddenly, something inside you freezes. The words get stuck in your throat because you know that if you say what you're actually thinking, it won't be a casual chat anymore. It will be a confession. You want to tell them how much they've changed your perspective and how they make your darkest days feel a little bit lighter, but the fear of rejection, or even the fear of being truly seen, keeps your lips sealed. You both stay in this shallow water, hiding the ocean of depth underneath, because you're terrified that once you start speaking the truth, there is no going back to the way things were. Before we move on to the next signs of this hidden bond, I want to take a moment to ask you, does any of this feel like a mirror to your own life right now? Please share your thoughts or your story in the comments below. It helps to know we aren't alone in these silent battles of the heart. This avoidance isn't just about what you say, it's about how you manage the space between you. You might find yourself intentionally keeping your distance, telling yourself that you need space or that you don't want to get too close because you're busy or not ready for a relationship. You might go several days without texting them, trying to prove to yourself that you are in control and that you don't need them. But during those days of silence, you are constantly checking your phone, hoping their name pops up on the screen. And when you finally do see them again, it's like taking a deep breath after being underwater for too long. There is a physical relief in their presence that you can't fake. It is a constant dance of taking one step closer and then 2 steps back. You are both testing the limits of how much you can hide and how long you can keep the act going. It isn't indifference that is keeping you apart. It is pure, unadulterated fear. You are afraid of the power this person has over your emotions. You are afraid that if you stop pretending and finally admit how much you care, your whole world will change in ways you can't predict. So you stay in this loop, longing for them when they are gone and pushing them away when they are near, all while your heart is quietly screaming that it has already found its home. The 4th sign that your hearts are already intertwined is the way their silence affects your entire world. When that person goes quiet, the universe seems to lose its rhythm and balance. It is a heavy, unsettling feeling that leaves you feeling completely off balance, like the ground beneath your feet has shifted. You might try to go about your daily routine, focusing on your career or spending time with other friends, but there is a nagging, persistent sensation in the back of your mind that something is fundamentally missing. You find yourself overthinking every single interaction you've had with them recently, replaying every word and every gesture in a loop. You wonder if you said something that came off the wrong way, or if you were too distant, or if they have suddenly realized they aren't as interested as you hoped they were. This is the heart-wrenching reality of being in love, but staying silent, you are constantly searching for hidden meaning in the gaps between conversations. You tell yourself that you shouldn't care this much because, technically, there is no official label on what you have. You try to use cold logic to calm your nerves, reminding yourself that they are just a friend, or a casual acquaintance. But your heart doesn't understand those kinds of definitions. It only understands the intense presence of that person and the painful, hollow ache of their absence. Their silence becomes a loud, echoing force that drowns out the voices of everyone else around you. Even when you are surrounded by a room full of people who love and support you, the one voice you truly crave to hear is the one that isn't speaking right now. They have become such a fundamental part of your internal world that their energy fills up your thoughts even when they aren't physically in the room. You can still hear the specific way they say your name or the unique melody of their laughter echoing in your mind. The reason this silence hurts so much is that deep down you have already allowed yourself to love them, even if you haven't found the bravery to say it out loud yet. You are vulnerable to them in a way you aren't with anyone else, and their withdrawal, no matter how brief, feels like a physical loss. It is a sign that your connection has moved past the point of being a casual interest and has entered the territory of a deep, soul-level attachment that you are terrified to lose. Before we move on to how this manifests in other ways, have you ever felt that heavy silence from someone and realized it meant much more than you wanted to admit? Let us know in the comments how you navigated that feeling. This leads directly into the 5th sign, the presence of jealousy in a situation where you feel you have no right to it. Because you haven't made things official or defined the relationship, you constantly tell yourself that you have no right to feel protective or possessive. You watch them interact with someone else. Maybe they are laughing at a joke or sharing a warm, familiar glance with a stranger, and something deep inside your chest twists and burns. It is a sharp, painful sensation that you try your absolute best to hide behind a mask of indifference or casual conversation. You might even force yourself to smile and act like it doesn't bother you at all, but the truth is that it feels like someone is stepping into a sacred space that was meant only for you. You wish that the closeness they are showing someone else was directed solely at you. What makes this even more significant and revealing is that they usually feel the exact same way when the roles are reversed. They are quietly watching who makes you smile and who you spend your time with. Even if they don't say a single word about it, you can often feel the shift in their energy and their tone. Their voice might become a little shorter, or they might create a sudden, subtle distance between you as a way of protecting their own heart from the sting of what they perceive as you're moving on. This kind of jealousy isn't about toxic possession. It is the truest, most honest indicator of a bond that hasn't been spoken into existence yet. It is about that unspoken attachment and the desperate desire to matter to the other person, coupled with the agonizing uncertainty of not knowing if you actually do. You are both navigating a minefield of intense emotions, wanting to be the most important person in the other's life while simultaneously being too afraid to ask for that position. This jealousy is a mirror reflecting the truth that you can't hide from. You aren't just friends, and you aren't just passing time together. You are two people who are deeply, perhaps irrevocably, invested in one another. You are waiting for the courage to finally bridge the gap between nothing and everything, but until then, the fear of losing that unspoken connection remains the strongest evidence that the love is already there. It is a connection that survives through the distance, the fear, and the long stretches of silence, because love that is real doesn't simply disappear. It waits for its moment to be recognized. The sixth sign that you are deeply entangled in a love you were too afraid to name is the simple, painful fact that no one else feels right. You have likely tried to move on. At some point you told yourself that what you felt for this person was just a temporary phase, a passing crush, or a trick of the mind. You might have even forced yourself back into the dating world, meeting new people and going through the motions of getting to know someone else. But no matter how hard you try to engage, every new conversation feels strangely hollow and empty. It's as if you are eating from a script, reciting the same rehearsed questions and answers, but there is absolutely no soul behind the words. You realize that once your heart has experienced a real, profound connection, it flatly refuses to settle for something that is merely almost enough. You find yourself comparing every new person to them, the way they listen, the way they challenge you, the way they make you feel seen, and everyone else falls short. It is a terrifying realization because it means you are no longer in control of where your heart goes. You might be scared of the intensity of loving them, but you are becoming even more frightened of the idea of living a life without that specific sense of being understood and connected. Even on the quietest nights, when you think you've finally buried the feeling, a certain song or a sudden memory will bring their name rushing back to the surface of your mind. It is a persistent, beautiful haunting that proves your heart has already made its choice, even if your mind is still trying to negotiate an exit. I want to pause here and ask you, have you ever been on a date with someone new only to realize that your mind was completely somewhere else, anchored to that one person you're trying to forget? If you've felt that hollow, rehearsed feeling in your conversations, please share that experience in the comments, as it's a sign so many of us try to ignore. Moving into the seventh sign, you will notice that you feel completely emotionally naked when you are around them. There is something unique about their presence that seems to strip away all of your carefully constructed defenses. You could be in a room full of people wearing your most confident mask, but the moment they look at you, it feels as though they are seeing directly into your soul, past the persona you show to the rest of the world. They don't have to ask you what's wrong or wait for you to explain your mood. They just seem to know. They can sense the exact moment your smile becomes a little too fixed or when your laughter feels forced and empty. They know when your heart is heavy even when you are trying your hardest to appear light-hearted. This level of intuitive understanding is incredibly rare, but it is also what makes you feel so vulnerable and exposed. You are well aware that once someone can see you that deeply, they also hold the immense power to break you. To protect yourself from that potential pain, you might find yourself building small walls of distance or using distractions to keep them at arm's length. You might even deny the connection to their face, trying to pretend that they don't have that kind of insight into your life. But somehow, they always find a way through those barriers without even trying. Each time they see through your mask, it serves as a powerful reminder that what you share isn't just a simple attraction or a physical pull. It is a profound emotional connection that is impossible to fake and even harder to walk away from. It is the kind of bond that leaves a permanent mark on your spirit, making you realize that you are already deeply in love, even if you are still too terrified to let the words escape your lips. The eighth sign that you are both deeply in love is the way they have taken up permanent residence in your mind. They aren't just a passing thought, they live in your headspace like a quiet, beautiful background song that you can't stop humming. You find yourself thinking of them when you first open your eyes in the morning, during the busiest moments of your workday, and in those quiet seconds of doing absolutely nothing. This isn't a frantic or scary obsession, it is what we call resonance. It is the feeling of your soul vibrating at the same frequency as theirs. You find yourself remembering the smallest, most ordinary details about them, the specific way they laugh at a joke, how they look when they are completely lost in thought, or the unique melody of how they say your name. Even the most mundane moments of your life start to feel a little bit more sacred because they were a part of them. You might try to tell your heart to stop thinking so much or to focus on something else, but the heart simply does not take orders from the mind. It follows feelings, and this particular feeling has woven itself into the very fabric of who you are. You are realizing that no matter how hard you try to escape the thought of them, they have become a part of your internal landscape that you no longer want to live without. Before we move into the next sign, I want to ask you, is there a specific memory or a small detail about this person that always seems to play on loop in your mind? Tell us about that background song in the comments below. It's often those tiny things that reveal the most about how we truly feel. This internal focus leads to the ninth sign, which is the way your body betrays your attempt to stay neutral. You both might act like you don't care, or you might even go out of your way to ignore each other on purpose to prove how unaffected you are. You try to show the world, and each other, that you are perfectly fine and completely indifferent, but your energy tells a much more honest story. When you walk into a room where they are, your body reacts long before your mind can catch up and put on a mask. There is a sudden flicker in your heartbeat, a subtle shift in the rhythm of your breath, and a softening in your eyes that you can't quite control. Even for just a split second, your guard drops and your walls crumble. The truth is that you cannot fake neutrality with someone whom your soul already recognizes. You can pretend with your words, and you can stay silent with your mouth, but your body is honest. Every hesitation in your voice, every half-smile you try to hide, and every almost confession that dies in your throat is a signal. It's as if your physical selves are having a completely different conversation than your spoken words, and both of you can feel it vibrating in the air between you. Finally, we reach the 10th and perhaps the most significant sign of all. You both already know exactly what this is, but you are stuck in a waiting game. You have known the truth from the very beginning, even if you weren't ready to admit it to yourself. You felt it in every heavy silence that lasted a little too long, in every almost touch that sent sparks through your skin, and in every goodbye that felt far too heavy for two people who are supposedly just friends. You are both standing on the edge of the same cliff, looking at the same beautiful view, but you are waiting for the other person to make the first move. You are waiting for them to be the brave one to say the words that you are too terrified to say yourself. This hesitation comes from the fact that love is as vulnerable as it is beautiful, and being that vulnerable requires a level of courage that is hard to find. You are both paralyzed by the fear of what might happen if you finally stop pretending. You worry that a confession might ruin the delicate connection you already have, or you fear that they might not actually feel the same way, even though every single sign in the universe is screaming that they do. So, you both stay in this quiet holding pattern, loving silently, hoping quietly, and waiting for a sign that it is finally safe to let the truth out. Even in the midst of this heavy silence and the agonizing wait for someone to speak first, there is something remarkably steady and unshaken about the bond you share. You might notice that despite the lack of official words, the connection between you does not fade away into the background like other fleeting interests do. Instead, it simply changes its shape, finding clever ways to hide beneath the surface of your everyday life. It disguises itself as a deep and loyal friendship, or perhaps it presents itself as a series of strange coincidences that keep bringing you back into each other's orbits. You try to use logic to explain it away, telling yourself that you just happen to run in the same circles, or that you simply have a lot in common, but deep down, your heart knows better. This is a love that is remarkably resilient, surviving through long stretches of distance, intense periods of fear, and the most stubborn of silences. It doesn't need constant validation or loud declarations to stay alive because it is rooted in something much deeper than words. It lingers in the air between you, waiting patiently for the right timing, for a moment of collective courage, or perhaps for a nudge from fate itself. It is a love that refuses to disappear because real love isn't something that can be easily discarded or forgotten. It is a permanent shift in your emotional landscape that will always find its way back to you in the most unexpected and quiet moments, reminding you that still there, patiently waiting for you to be ready. I want to take a moment to ask you, as you've been listening to this, is there a specific face that keeps appearing in your mind, a name that feels like it's written on every page of your story? If so, please share a yes, or tell us a bit about why that person matters so much to you in the comments below, because that internal image is often the most powerful sign of all. The truth that many of us are afraid to face is that we aren't actually afraid of the love itself, but rather we are terrified of what that love will change within us and our lives. We worry that if we let this person in, we will lose our sense of independence, or that our carefully constructed world will be turned upside down. We are afraid that being this vulnerable will leave us raw and exposed, and we fear the person we might become once we are no longer protecting ourselves. But the reality is that real love is meant to change you. It is designed to awaken the parts of you that have been dormant for years, to soften the hard edges you've built up for protection, and ultimately to heal the wounds you didn't even realize you were still carrying. It is a transformative force that doesn't just add to your life, but evolves it into something more meaningful and authentic. When you stop fighting the feeling and finally allow it to breathe, you will realize that you were never in danger from the love itself. You were just standing at the threshold of a new version of yourself, one that is capable of a depth and a connection you never thought possible. One day, when you both finally feel safe enough, and when the weight of the silence becomes heavier than the fear of speaking, that love will stop hiding. You will look at each other and realize that you have both been holding your breath for far too long. You'll see that the love didn't just suddenly appear, it was there all along, quietly guiding you, protecting you, and waiting for you to acknowledge its presence. It was the energy in your glances, the comfort in your silences, and the reason you could never quite walk away. When that moment finally comes, you'll see that the fear was just a shadow, and the love was the only thing that was ever truly real. You both already love each other deeply, you are simply waiting for your hearts to feel secure enough to say it out loud. If this message resonated with you today, and helped you understand your own heart a little bit better, please don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more insights into the human heart. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue exploring these deep connections together. Thank you for being here, and remember that your heart knows the way, even when you're still too afraid to follow it.